Hello, Internet. Welcome to United Opposition with Scott and Marshall. We're here talking about America on September 12th, 2001, and what it's like today. Let's go. Welcome once again to United Opposition with Scott and Marshall, where we talk about faith, we talk about politics, we talk about ideology, we talk about all these things from opposing sides, and yet we're still unified. So, Marshall, thank you for joining us as you always do. I'm at the 511 Studios. You're at your house. Today we're talking about September 12th. Seeing how tomorrow is September 11th, I thought maybe we can talk about this. And what I mean by that is that whole idea of it felt like America was more united on September 12th, 2001 than we are now. And I'm curious about, especially as a conservative, as a person on the right, how, I lived through that being, how old was I at the time? 28, 27, 26? I can't remember right now. It's 20 something. 26 or 27. And when that happened, and I distinctly remember that day and what happened, and how I felt as an American, as a conservative, as as those things. But I never really thought about that experience from outside that perspective, from a non-American like Marshall. Just kidding.
From someone who Scott. Drink your coffee.
From someone who doesn't love America, like Marshall.
Right,
I'm sorry.
right.
No, but yes, thank you for reminding me. We were brought to you today by Covenant Coffee, as we are usually here. Covenant Coffee, you want to support them. You pick up coffee at 2 locations here in Bakersfield. When you buy from Covenant Coffee, you are supporting not only getting great coffee, but you are supporting an actual ministry here in the city, a ministry that helps youth, people who are right there where the people who need the help the most. These are young people who have aged out of the foster system. They're emancipated foster youth. They don't have direct parents. They're not in a home anymore. They're not in the foster home system. And it's like, where do they go? What do they do? And a lot of times they fall through the cracks. So Covenant Coffee has stepped in to offer them mentorships, to offer them jobs, to offer them find places for them to live and stuff like that. So when you buy Covenant Coffee, you are supporting that ministry. And so this is our Covenant Coffee ASMR. Covenant Coffee, hope in a cup. There we are. So yes, speaking of hope, no, that's a bad transition. But yeah, there was not a whole lot of hope being felt on September 12th, but there was a sense of unity. Mm-hmm. At least let me explain. Not to hog the conversation with that, but I'll just start off of how I saw everything on the day after the attack, and how I saw everything. To me, it felt like everybody was proud to be an American. It felt like everybody felt unified. Like it wasn't, Italian Americans, African Americans, Mexican Americans. It really, to me, felt like people drew together as one nation and drew together. Now, at the same time, I understand this. I understand that there was a very big, what was it? Islamophobic thing that happened. There was a very big, we felt attacked by an entire group of people, not by the radicals of that group. I think there was some legitimacy to being felt like it was a group, because I remember seeing the Islamic nations, news coverage from the Islamic nations of people of mass groups of Muslims celebrating the attack. And so it did feel like there was a group that group was against us and we were against that group. But for me, it felt more like that we came united. Like let's put aside these silly differences of all these hyphenated American groups, and let's just be American. And let's stand together. And I felt like there was that was in the air. But maybe I because I was a conservative on the right, maybe that was something, and because I was not Islamic, maybe that was something that I misread. Marshall, you and I are about the same age at that time. If I got to do the math, and it's 27, 28, somewhere right around there. I had one kid, married with my wife at home, and that's where I was. That was the life that I was living, and 10 years out of high school, and 9 years out of high school, actually. So Marshall, what was your experience on that day? What did you see on 9/12?
Yeah, like you, I saw and felt a lot of unity and affinity with my fellow Americans. We were probably the most unified I can remember ever, in terms of a national spirit and a national will. There was certainly a national anger. We wanted revenge. We wanted to hit back at someone or something, you know. It was deep and profound shock and sorrow and anger kind of all at the same time. And, I remember I am not a fan of needles. I drove to the blood bank and the line was so long, it was like, forget it. You know, they were actually turning people away. And I don't like needles, but yeah, everybody wanted to do something. I remember going to the blood bank and there was a line all the way around the building. And it's just, this is how we react when we're faced with an attack on our nation, and this is something that we're unaccustomed to as Americans. We're unaccustomed to suffering blows like this. So in history there's going to be two dates in American history that matter if you're going to be a student of American history in the future, and the first one of course is July 4th, 1776. We can not worry about 1783 when the Constitution was ratified, but July 4th. But the other one will be September 11th, 2001, because that date marks the end of what I call the Pax Americana, the peace of America. In the Roman Empire, the fall of the Roman Empire begins in 180 AD with the death of Marcus.
So you're saying, hold on a second. So you're saying that as a white American male, you can't go 7 minutes into our podcast without talking about the Roman Empire? Sorry.
Right. Yeah. How many times did you think about the Roman Empire today?
Sorry, I had to do that joke. Sorry. Go ahead.
There are many parallels, though, and that's why you study history, because it allows you to predict the future and make sense of the present, because humans are the same in every period. So just the technology changes, but the technology doesn't really change us. We're still human. But anyway, I think that's the beginning of the decline and fall of the American Empire. It's the beginning of our end. And the only question is, how long will it take for the nation to decline and collapse? Will it be just months, years, decades, centuries, perhaps?
So let me ask
the
this.
High water mark.
Let me ask this based on what you just said right now. Why wasn't Pearl Harbor the beginning of the end?
Well, actually, Pearl Harbor was kind of the beginning of kind of a new beginning, in that after World War II, the United States, really we could go all the way back to the Spanish-American War and the Monroe Doctrine, where the United States begins to cast its influence over the Americas. And then after World War II, we begin to reach out around the world. And it's both militarily and economically. And the economic empire is actually the big thing. The military occupation, we're the only nation that has hundreds of bases around the world in other countries. But the purpose of the military presence is to support our economic activity around the world, just like the British did, and the Spanish and the Portuguese and everybody else. That's why there are Spanish forts in Puerto Rico or Mexico, whatever. It's no different. But just as those empires decline and fell, so too will ours.
But why do you think this? You think that September 11th was the marking of the beginning of the fall, but it wasn't. It was the marking of the beginning of the growth for Pearl Harbor. What is the difference what would be the difference? Is it where America was before? Was America already falling before that attack and it just accelerated? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I think I don't think Pearl Harbor really counts. It was certainly a defining moment for people who lived through it, but it was really just, we went further up this kind of this logarithmic curve, this hockey stick of global power and influence and prestige. Whereas 9/11, you're going to see us begin to decline. So to come back
is it
to
just
9/11,
because is it just because we were already at the top during 9/11 that we could only go down from there?
Yeah. Okay. I think the 90s were a great time. They were a fantastic time to be
They
alive.
were very colorful.
They certainly were. They
Yes.
certainly were. But just look at our economics and our global dominance and like everything, you know. But since then, it's all been downhill with China rising in dominance and the United States losing influence and prestige around the world. So on 9/11, 9/12, we're this unified nation, but then that unity begins to crack. We were unified up to, I think, the invasion of Afghanistan because we just wanted to hit something really hard, and Afghanistan was the convenient target.
I remember people talking about like they wanted to turn the Middle East into glass. Like I remember that specific phrase. For those who don't know what that means, like when sand is burned at such a high temperature, it turns into glass. So it was literally like just nuke the Middle East and turn it into glass. And I remember that specific phrase. I didn't particularly like it, but I remember it.
Yeah, I do too. And the phrase in my circle was turn it into a parking lot.
That one too.
You know, that one. But yeah, it's the same thing. But the problem is, you know, you get to 2003, you get to the Iraq War, which is the only war out of all these that we won, but we really lost when you look at the aftermath. Yeah, we went in, we got Saddam Hussein, entirely wrong target, you know, and then of course that further destabilizes Iraq. I can't speak to their situation at present, but I know in certain parts of the country, particularly in the north, you still have ISIS running around. The Taliban occupy Afghanistan. So once we start going to war
with all of our weapons,
in Iraq, that's when the divisions and the cracks really start to appear, because a lot of people are like, why are we in Iraq? What's the purpose? What's the point of that? And it was very hard to justify, of course. And, you know, they talked about weapons of mass destructions, which, by the way, they never found because they didn't exist, and all of that. But that was just a decline. And people realized that we could be defeated with asymmetrical guerrilla warfare. And you can't kill the Taliban and you can't kill ISIS. You can kill their leaders.
You can. It's just very inhumane and it's difficult to do.
They're ideas. You can't kill ideas. You can kill the people. You can kill the leaders, but you can't kill the idea that is the Taliban, because the Taliban is the political head that represents a whole body of ideas. Likewise, ISIS. It is this militant, political, malignant head that represents a body of ideas, but those ideas are going to persist. And the harder you crack down on them, the harder or more popular those ideas actually become, because that's how the human psyche works. Whenever there's something, there will be a resistance to it that will form, and the harder you push, the harder the resistance will be. And it's just, there you go. And I think we're seeing the breakdown of the American empire as a result.
So was it a good thing? It felt like a good thing. September 12th and how we felt, how Americans rallied around each other felt like a good thing. But looking back on it, is that type of unity after a tragedy, is that type of unity, is that actually healthy unity? I mean,
I think so. Okay. Yeah, it's just like when a patriarch or a matriarch of a family dies, and relatives come from all over, and you mourn together, and you remember, and you reflect, and you reestablish bonds and other things. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a normal thing. We're wired to do that.
But I'm saying,
normal.
I wonder if it's akin to a funeral, or is it more closely akin to two people who are already different coming together during a tragic moment? Was it relationships built on tragedy, or what's the phrase? Relationships built on a traumatic shared traumatic experience never last. I mean, was it more that we were all had a traumatic experience and people who were so different thought we could come together? Or do you think those type of things genuinely bring people together?
That's a good question, and I'm not sure if I could answer it. But if we look at the nation today, 23, 24 years on, we're more divided than we've ever been, 23 years on. I feel. I mean, people even talk about, they compare us to the antebellum North and South, how divided the country was then.
But I felt it wasn't until around 2008.
Correct. The election of Barack Obama was a watershed moment for a lot of people, myself in particular. And what really distressed me was I felt that a lot of people were simply upset with Obama because of his race. And that there's
not
this
at all.
undercurrent of racism in the opposition.
Not at all. Not at all.
My maybe not for you.
No, but
maybe not for you.
But I'm saying from what I could see, nobody cared as much about his skin until he started saying things about skin. Like the watershed moment wasn't his election. The watershed moment was him prodding and poking and that whole incident where the police arrested somebody at Columbia University or something like that, and he immediately like, yeah, well, we have problems like that with white police officers, and then he had to backtrack from that and have them all invited to the White House for beers and all kinds of. But no, but I don't feel people cared about what race you were until Obama was in office, and he was making everything about race. Like, it just felt like it was race. It was race. It was race. Like, everybody just shut up about race. Who cares? I felt like, especially our generation, Gen X did not care about race. Gen X did not care about race. Growing up as Gen
not
X,
as much as our parents and our grandparents.
Exactly. And now I think we've gone backwards. Like, we've gone, the following generations care so much about race. The following generations and I feel that they were egged on by the left, trying to divide us for political power. I really think it was an intentional thing. I know we might be getting off topic here, but I would love for us to get back to the idea of, I don't care if you're African American, I don't care if you're Mexican American, I don't care if you're Hungarian American, I don't care if you're European. Like, can we just be Americans? Is it bad to think, can we go back to the days of September 12th, 2001 with the idea of, can we just all be Americans? Can we all be satisfied with just being Americans? Is that a bad thing to yearn for, Marshall?
I think that's a good thing to yearn for, but I also think race does matter. And I would argue that these groups, especially those groups who traditionally have been disenfranchised and marginalized, and still experience this on some level even to this day, I would encourage them to celebrate their uniqueness and to embrace it. And yeah, I don't have an issue if a person says, hey, I'm Black and I'm going to be the first Black whatever, or I am this, I am Jewish, I'm going to be the first Jewish American president. Great, fantastic. Or the first Muslim American. I understand the level at which you're operating, but I think it's fantastic because to me, that's a fulfillment of the promise that is America.
Okay. So, I get that, because once we have a female president, that'll be like, okay, well, we've done that. America has done that. Good job. That's great. But to run on that, to vote for a person because they're female, to say this, the point of this race is so that we can put a female into presidency. I'm like, who cares? That's not one of the qualifications. That's not how do you decide who's the better candidate. That has nothing to do with it. If it happens to happen, then great, we made it past there. But people making a big deal about let's make it happen, it's everything for the wrong reasons, and it's division. It's division, and it makes us divided instead of being united. Anytime, and that again, going back to the topic, going back to how we felt on September 12th, the idea being, man, we are just brothers and sisters. We this is our nation. Let's unify. Let's come together. Don't let our differences come between us. Can we just be together and not point out each other's differences, not make each other's differences how we define ourselves? Why define ourselves by our differences? Why not define ourselves by our similarities? And I feel that we've gone so far to where we go out of our way to identify ourselves by our differences instead of identifying ourselves by our similarities.
Yeah, when I eat a salad, I like to have some tomatoes or some olives, some cucumbers, some dressing, some other things thrown in there.
But it's still a salad. You call it a salad.
Yeah, but I don't want to just eat.
This is not a tomato salad. This is not a. This is not a. This is you biting into the salad. Like, well, this is the romaine salad part of it, and this is the tomato salad part of it, and this is the dressing. Why not just let it be a salad? Why not just eat it because it's a salad?
What makes a salad so delicious is all the mixing of all the ingredients.
Yes. So then why separate them?
Great.
So then why separate them after that? then why say I'm only going to eat the tomato?
Each distinct flavor should be celebrated and
No,
appreciated.
but that's not what makes it a salad. Let's go. I mean, it's when the flavors come together. It's when they come together is what actually makes it good. I mean, we're talking food here. Like
right. When it comes together,
dish,
I agree with you.
What makes a dish better is that it is more than the sum of the parts. So why do we keep trying to deconstruct, have a deconstructed salad? Like, hey, I'd like to order a salad. And this restaurant's like, yeah, here's a deconstructed salad. On this plate's the lettuce, on this plate's the tomatoes, and this plate's it's like, no, put it all together in one bowl. That way I can have a salad. I didn't ask for it separated. I want the greater thing, not the separate parts.
Sure. What I'm saying is both are okay. And I don't think that they're exclusive. And, we can have America, the melting pot, where we are all American. And
it's, I think literally the definition of exclusive.
I think there's a time and a place for that. And September 12th would definitely count as a time and a place for that. But there are going to be specific instances where you're going to celebrate an individual or a group's distinctiveness from the whole. And I think to erase that is just another form of racism. It's not that anyone here is intending to be prejudiced necessarily, but I think we misunderstand it. As long as people express and celebrate their differences in a healthy way, I think that's fantastic. How can anyone have a problem with that? That's freedom. Again, that's a fulfillment of the American promise. It's the American dream. It's what's on the Statue of Liberty. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Everybody's welcome here. Come on in.
Yep.
Come on in.
Yep.
And here's the opportunity. And we're going to work together. You're going to work side by side by people with different skin colors, different gender expressions or identities, whatever. There's going to be all these diverse group of people, but we're all going to pull together. Especially
but we're not. That's our problem right now. That in this day and age, we're not pulling together. People are not coming to this country and saying, I want to be American. They're coming into this country and saying, I still want to be my other identity and not necessarily be American.
But these are not exclusive identities.
They are. They literally are.
No,
they're
not.
Literally. You cannot be. You can't. Yes. By definition.
How?
Because when you have the different ingredients, it's no longer a salad. When you put them together, it's a salad. If you have a plate, if you have a plate with this and a plate with that, those separate plates are not a salad. They're literally exclusive. You say, yes, I have this history. Yes, I have this heritage. Yes, I can celebrate this heritage. Yes, I can celebrate the idea and I can celebrate the fact that my ancestors are Mexican migrants that came into the United States to make a better life. I can understand that and I can celebrate that. My last name is Garcia and I can celebrate that. But they came here to become Americans, not to stay Mexican. They wanted to become something new. They wanted to blend it and become this something new. And that's a unified thing. They came in to be unified with everybody instead of coming in and being separate. Like I'm guilty of this in that in our modern age, I barely know who our neighbors are because I just live in my house. I used to know our neighbors. And the comfort of the comfort of not having to get to know my neighbors because I don't need to. Because our society now, you don't need to know your neighbors in order to survive. You can drive wherever you're going to go and everything like that. And I get that, but I like the idea of everybody coming together and choosing to be unified instead of coming in and say, I'm going to go stand in this corner with this group of friends. I mean, you think about it, everything about high school that we as adults make fun of and say, well, that's so dumb, is about the cliques, is about they come into high school and then the jocks are over there and the cowboys are over there and the cheerleaders are over there, and the nerds are over there. It's like, okay, so we want to make America more like high school? That's dumb. Let's make America more like church. Everybody comes in and everybody's together and everybody brings their food and we have a potluck. Like, you know what I mean? Let's stop.
I think we can do that.
Being cliques.
The problem is I don't think we should ask people to leave their skin at the border or to give up their cultural heritage and the things that they value. Didn't say that. I mean, Scott, you probably think Taco Bell is tacos. You find mayo to be spicy, don't you? Admit it.
Yeah, again, my ancestors came from Mexico. My dad's mom taught my mom how to cook like actual Mexican food. Like we had
Can
like
you
when
cook?
when I had American, I grew up having like dark brown, orange, like my grandmother would make a platter of enchiladas with one whole container, one whole bottle of chili powder in the sauce.
There you go.
And so
There
they
you
were
go.
dark orange, brown, and then we'd have like, well, again, church potlucks where somebody would bring enchiladas. I'm like, what is that? It's like it's like still white tortillas with like, you know, cheese. I'm like, okay, whatever. But no, yeah, I still grew up with that. My grandmother taught me how to make tortillas. I would help my grandmother on Saturdays make tortillas. She would do them. She would roll, and
Wasn't that wonderful?
It was great. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
There's
nothing
nothing.
case.
Right? No, I'm saying
Does
that's all it
that
was.
mean your grandmother's not American?
No, because she wanted to be American.
I rest my case.
She called herself.
It's
she said
not
she was.
exclusive.
She didn't call her. No, when I say it's exclusive, when people identify as I'm a Mexican American, that's exclusive.
Great.
Let's stop that. Let's stop that. You're an American. You lived in America. You became a citizen. You came here. Great. You're an American. Stop identifying as a separate group. Why do we want to keep ourselves separate? That's what I think. That's what I think is tough. It
don't want to
causes
eat
division.
grilled cheese, hamburger, and hot dogs for every meal.
No, that has nothing to do with it.
I mean,
that has nothing to do with it.
But I'm using that as a metaphor for everything else out there. I love the diversity. I think the diversity is fantastic. Different ways of thinking and doing things.
We will always be diverse.
Where these things that make us stronger as a nation come from.
Yes,
they come from those little cliques, if you will.
Yes.
We come together into the church, into the potluck together.
Yes.
It's not mutually exclusive, Scott.
It is when you identify, when you say, I want to be known as, I am this clique first before I'm an American. That is exclusive.
I don't know
making that exclusive.
I don't know that people are doing that.
Yes.
I don't think
anytime someone says I'm a Mexican American, I'm an Irish American, I'm a blank American,
do you think that they're
whatever
giving up
hyphenated American
citizenship when they do that?
No, but they're keeping up division. Literally, by definition of hyphenating your name, hyphenating your identity, you are bringing forward division as part of your identity. My identity
but there is a time
divided.
And a place. There's a time and a place for that. For example, you have a fence between you and your neighbor's house. I know I've been there.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's okay to have the privacy fence and the wall so that you have your own space to be the Garcia family. Mm-hmm. And then when you go out to the public sphere, there's no more fence. And you're just Scott, and you're Scott in a sea of other people, you know, and that's great too. There's a time and a place for both. And as long as you maintain a healthy division of those two things, I feel it's okay. You know, if somebody is going to say, you know, I am this and therefore I cannot be an American, that's different. I would like to hear that on a case-by-case basis. Mm-hmm. There are some people out there who like, well, I'm a citizen of the world. Okay, interesting, you know. But those people are few and far between. The people who are saying I'm a Mexican American or an Irish American or Italian American, I don't think that they, you know, when wars break out, these people sign up and enlist just like so many people did after 9/11. And they still identified as Mexican or Italian or Irish or Black, whatever. That's fine. I think it's fine.
I think that thinking is what leads to division. That on September 12th, we were all Americans. People look and says we're Americans. It wasn't the most important thing to say I'm a this hyphenated American. We felt unified because we said we're American. And I feel like 20 years later, 23 years later, everybody is more, I'm a this hyphenated American. And our thinking is division instead of thinking unity.
We do need to find,
that's hurt.
Yeah. And I agree with you, Scott. We do need to find a way to emphasize our commonality and the fact that we're in this together. And I don't know what that way is going to be. COVID didn't do it. I thought it might. It didn't really. The current political climate sure ain't doing it. So I don't know what we have to do. You know, I certainly don't advocate tearing down a skyscraper to do it. But we need to we kind of need to get our mojo back in a way.
Yeah.
You know, so there's something of that too. but I also think it's appropriate to celebrate your uniqueness and your cultural identity as well. So
I'm Scott Garcia. I celebrate that my family immigrated from Mexico, that the Garcia name comes from Spain. I like that. I am Scott Garcia. I'm an American.
Well, I'm Marshall Neal, and I celebrate the fact that my heritage is both Mexican and Irish, but I'm also an American.
You're Irish? Okay, I can't be around you. Sorry.
There you go. There you go. That's the end of it right there. Anyway.
Hey, thanks for joining us, United Opposition. We're here every Tuesday. We will see. I may or may not be here next Tuesday. I can't. We'll find out. But I think the show. We'll see. What's the Queen? The show must go on.
Maybe I'll have to go on with Mike or something.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But we are continuing to do Tuesdays at 4:00, and we'll see you next time. God bless everybody.
Thank you.